This is a KUNV Studios original program.
The content of this program does not reflect the views or opinions of 91.5 Jazz and More, the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, or the Board of Regents of the Nevada System of Higher Education.
Lights, camera, action. Welcome to Rebel Film Friday. We talk about films of all kinds every Friday at 6 p.m. And I'm your host, Cameron. Hello, Rebels. I am your host, Cameron Margolis, and I am joined here once again with my guests,
AJ Alimo,
Jaden Simpson,
and Corbin Song.
And today, we are back again talking about movies, so sit back, relax, and enjoy your calorie-free popcorn and assorted confections, because today, we're taking a look at Rango. Released in 2011 to critical and financial success, Rango went on to win Best Animated Picture at the 84th Academy Awards. So without further ado, let's get right into it with our first question. Now, our first question about the film today is going to be, who is your favorite character? There's a lot of fun characters throughout the film, from Rango to Rattlesnake Jake, and they all have really cool designs. So what is your favorite character, and why are they your favorite character?
I don't really know his name, but it's the drunk doctor that just pops out of nowhere and just, like, falls over again. I think that was just, like, funny. It's not, like, a major character or anything. I just think those are funny.
One of my favorite characters, and I'm kind of split a little between this, is the amphibian bartender, or the little rat, where I don't remember his name, but for the campfire, he was talking about how he found a human skeleton in his waist or whatever. I think he's just a very funny and amazing character.
I don't know the kid's name, but it's the kid with the funny hat and immediately tells Rango he's going to die and wants his boots. Like, the entirety of the film is probably my favorite character. Other than that, I think Rango is indisputably the best character.
Oh, for sure. Of course.
I think, in my personal opinion, that Rattlesnake Jake is the best character, even though he's not really, like, shown on screen until the latter half of the film. He's foreshadowed throughout it. They speak of him very highly, and the only reason he hasn't been in town is because of the hawk. On top of that, his design is just really cool, and having, like, a machine gun for a tail is such an interesting design choice.
It's very interesting.
Okay, so what are some of the references to Western movies and the Western genre you found throughout the film? I want to go first on this one, because I saw something while I was watching one of the earlier scenes that really caught my attention. In the first scene where Rango shows up at the saloon, and as he's walking towards the bar, we see a hand of poker cards. 2 black aces and 2 black eights. This is the hand that Billy the Kid, the famous outlaw, held when he was shot in the back of the head. This is known as the dead man's hand, which I thought was really cool to see in this, and it's a nice homage to Western history.
I don't watch a whole lot of Western films, truth be told, but I almost kind of want to compare it to a movie called Tombstone, where towards the end, one of his best friends are dying, and it's almost like a final shootout. It's his final mark, and I almost want to compare that to Rango, because he kind of has nothing, and he's going to give it all that he's got for, instead of just one person, it's going to be for the town, because they need a hero, and I'm just trying to think if I can think of one more, but that's really all I got at the moment.
What I noticed first was Rattlesnake Jake and Rango as quote-unquote legends. Like, he tips his hat to you, one legend to another. Becoming a legend is, like, the most romanticized part about Western, like, movies and media and things of the sort. So that was probably the most prominent thing I noticed. Other than that, it's just a bunch of, like, what's the word? Like, Western cliches, mostly.
Yeah, kind of with that same thing. I noticed how, like, Rango is in a bar when he first gets there, how he's telling all these tall tales and stuff. I think that's follows in line with that Western kind of, like, theme that follows in all those kinds of movies.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. I think there's a lot of very classic cliches, like the showdowns and the sheriff being the one to save the town from some sort of evil. In this case, it happens to be the mayor who's actually hoarding the water. So, on to our next question. The theme of the movie is that of identity and learning to be a real hero. What did you think of this theme, and how does it kind of apply to you, or what did you take away from it?
The takeaway for me was your identity isn't just based off of something you pretend to be. It's something deeper inside of you, obviously, but if you do make an identity, you can't walk away from it. As said at the end of the movie, you can't walk out of your own story. And not even that, just that. It's your story isn't even just about you. It's about that town as well. And one last comment about it. You almost said Rango rescues the town as the sheriff. I feel like he didn't rescue the town as the sheriff, because that was the title given to him by the mayor. I feel like he rescued the town more as himself than the sheriff necessarily. More as a hero than the sheriff.
That's certainly a very interesting argument to make. I would disagree on this one simply because he picks up the badge before he comes back. So he's inheriting the role of the sheriff again, but just differently. So not as appointed by the mayor, but as appointed by himself.
I kind of want to go a little bit in between both of you. With the idea at the very beginning of the movie, he plays these different roles. And when he first meets Beans, she asks, "Who are you?" And he doesn't quite have an answer. He doesn't know who he is, because all he's ever done is been stuck in his own little box and doing all these different roles. And initially, it was just, I can be a cowboy. This is his role. But towards the end, I want to say, he realized who he was, and who he was involved protecting people and being a sheriff and being the hero that the town needs. Because when he talks to the cowboy towards the end, you can't walk out on your own story. You're not here for yourself. You're here for them. And I think it's kind of, he made his own identity and found that he cares about his friends. He is who he was. It wasn't just all make-believe. Even though it was all talk before, he's done all these actions to help protect and be there for the town. And he realized that's who he is and wants to continue to be.
Definitely. It follows the model of a hero's journey, but it's about what it means to become a hero. So being a hero is being a hero to other people, not the ideals that we place upon ourselves, which I thought was a really nice conclusion to come to there. Something that I saw that really spoke to me about the film is basically like a post that's had this phrase over it that said subjectivity is truth. And that's how they referred to Rango the film. And I think that's a really nice way to put it, because our realities can be very subjective in how we view them, especially Rango's. Rango views himself for a while as the gunslinger of the West, the sheriff, the lawman, and even though his reality isn't actually the way it is, it's his subjective truth of it. All right, so we're going to head on to the next question. The movie has a lot of jokes that younger audiences usually miss because they lack proper context and they don't know a lot about the world yet. But older audiences seem to understand them. What are some of those jokes that you picked up on now that you would have missed when you were younger?
Immediately what comes to mind is the swallowing the Plan B. Like, that was immediately a joke that I would not have gotten. I mean, I would have understood, like, oh, Plan B is like, that's the, backup plan, but now it has a whole new connotation to it.
I was going to say the same thing. I can't think of any of the other jokes in the film at this moment, but Plan B was the one that came to mind first.
I was going to go with one that I picked up on, and it was at the campfire when Rango was saying that Rattlesnake Jake was his brother, and they were like, how does that work? How are you a lizard and your brother's a snake? And he's like, my mother had a very active life.
For me, I think it was probably, I don't remember what my favorite little rodent said, but they were running away from the mole people. Rango lands on the horse with one of the townspeople, and they were under the dress, and then he popped out, and I think he said something, that's all I need to see. And at first that went by over my head. I was like, okay, or whatever. I just thought it was a line, and now when I look at it, I'm like, oh, they snuck that one in.
Yeah, they also make a joke about basic real estate law, which I thought was pretty funny. They're just like, it's basic real estate law, man. And another one is they censor some curse words with natural sounds. So
The hawk.
the hawk, yes, where the hawk goes, "Caw!" It's jokes that you don't pick up on as a kid, but adults get, and it doesn't feel like pandering. It's nice. All right, so next question. In the movie Rango, the actors get up and perform what their character is doing. Should movies do this more for animation, or does it not add that much to the character?
I would say it adds a lot because not only is it easier for the actors to actually be the character, you can tell in the voices of the animation, even though you're not seeing the actors going around doing all these types of stuff, you can feel it, you can hear it in the way on how they're moving and doing all sorts of actions. It all feels coherent and all in pace. I don't feel like there was really any odd character out. Every single character felt like a character, someone in life, where they're not just there to be there. They have a purpose. They are a part of this collective world, and I think movies do need to do this more, especially for animated films.
Okay, I don't know much about the production of it. So was it mocap or was it more like method acting?
It wasn't mocap, but it was method acting. So
Okay.
future films, I don't know if it's future or not. However, films like Tintin,
Uh-huh.
they had mocap.
Okay.
So they animated the characters over the people. But for Rango, they just had the people play out the scenes with each other, like together, so that they could improv more clearly, which you can definitely see and definitely feel. Well, not see, but feel for sure. You can tell that the actors have natural chemistry with each other, and they play off each other really well. The lines flow together, and usually audio engineering is a huge part of films. It's what makes a film 90% of the time. And basically, throughout this entire movie, all the lines flow well, and it works together really nicely.
Oh, I have to talk. Yeah, the voice acting felt amazing in this movie. It, like you said, it flowed really nicely. I don't think there's a comment I could make that you guys haven't already made, but I just think it worked really well, the way they did the voice acting.
All right, so this is off topic a little bit, but I just wanted to talk about music. I know we talked about music in the last episode, but I really love the soundtrack to this movie. It's very classic Western, along with some of the spaghetti Western that we saw a little bit throughout films like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and stuff like that. Is Ennio Morricone's score, which is using kind of low-budget instruments, not the big brass that you normally hear, but it's in combination with classic Western instruments and also some kind of classic Mexican style. I think it works really well to blend together the theme and elevate the movie. So what did you guys think about the songs, the theme?
I thought it was really well put together. They definitely, once again, another movie that actually blended it well. And I would personally just say, for me, sometimes the songs felt not taking away from the movie, but I felt like it was perfect for being a kids' movie while also being a movie that adults can watch, because it does blend well. Just occasionally, of course, like, they have to appease to the kids, so you have this funny little catchy tune or whatever, but it still follows the whole Western genre. So I think the music was really well done.
I completely agree. And I think that we should transition this into talking about something I've wanted to talk about since we've watched the movie, is the town that is shown in the movie, the town of Dirt. So the town of Dirt could be considered a character in itself, especially with its citizens. How do you think the town of Dirt was characterized throughout the movie, and how did it add to the atmosphere?
So towards the end, when Rango is talking to what is essentially Clint Eastwood, he says it's not about Rango, it's about the town itself, which definitely solidifies the town as this sort of entity, its own character of a sort. But what really solidifies it is all the people in general. They're all one unit, that wants water, and that's all they want.
Okay, this is gonna be on subject, but a little bit of a stretch. So hear me out. In the very beginning, when he's talking to the armadillo, he said, "Where you find dirt, you find water." What is the town name called? Dirt. At the very end of the movie, what's there? Water. And also, I want to say there's some really clever symbolism in the fact on how, when you think about water, it's something that preserves life, something that is needed in life. Plants need water. Animals need water. So, and dirt, I mean, practically habits all life. So when you have water and dirt together, they make life. And I think what's really kind of cool, I'm probably jumping a big portion, but when he says, when you find dirt, you'll find water, I think he kind of knows Rango had really nothing in his life, and he needed that quote unquote water in his life. He needed to actually nurture something and have something grow for his life to be a little bit more than what it is right now.
I completely agree. I wanted to touch on a different side of the town. The fact that it's all kind of used. One of the things that I noticed was that the outhouse was a Pepto-Bismol bottle, and that touches on the theme of environmental awareness. So there's a theme of environmental awareness all throughout the film with the lack of water, with the conservation of water. How does the movie spread a message of environmental awareness and being cognizant of water usage?
Well, something on subject that I kind of that I saw in the very beginning of the movie was the chase scene where Rango's running from the hawk, and how the hawk gets caught up in like this rusted out can. And I thought it was like, oh, that's pollution. Look at nature having to deal with that. And so that's something I noticed about that.
Kind of just same thing. You see all these like scattered trash objects. I mean, there's a water cooler or whatever it is as the town's bank.
Water jug.
Water jug, yeah. You just see this out there, and you can kind of see little tidbits of stuff that it isn't like animal made. Like, of course, you have the weapons, you have some of the stuff that the rodents might have made or whatever, but you also kind of see little bits and pieces kind of all over, like the water jug and the carriage, I want to say. I think I saw. I don't remember what I saw. My brain is like tired today, so bear with me. But I think it does a really good job on kind of promoting that we need to be more environmentally friendly, and it's something that I think still preserves today in Las Vegas, in Nevada, because we keep kind of pushing out of the city and growing more and more trash is getting out there. It's getting worse. So I think it does a really good message on spreading that, because I would say Nevada is probably one of the areas we should focus on more.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, the main message about the water is that we need to share water and not hoard resources, or else everyone's going to run out, and it's just going to be a huge problem. So the end of the movie is such a fun scene. The confrontation with the mayor. They found out that the mayor is the bad guy. He's the one who's been hoarding all the water. And Rango confronts Jake, confronts the mayor. What do you think about the final few scenes of the movie?
I thought the battle scene with Rattlesnake Jake was really cool. How it was kind of like an aerial anti-air battle, and it reminded me a lot of like World War II sequences like that, and how that whole entire depiction of like these puffs of smoke and bats falling from the sky and everything, that it was very
something I want to say is the very last scene on when he confronts Jake and he puts up the gun, and Jake says, I forgot what he says, but he says something cocky or whatever, and he's like, don't test me or whatever. You can tell Rango's more serious, and I think it's really excellent because you can see a parallel from when this first happened. Jake gave him the gun and he's like, do it. And Rango's eyes, they were just kind of bright. His body language spoke with fear and shaking. Whereas, again, the whole hero and character development, this is the role he chose. He is confident about this. His body's not moving. His eyes are focused only on him. There's no other movement. He is dead serious. And Jake sees this, and he is taking a step back. Even when Rango puts down the gun, you can see him in the background. His eyes are still wide open, like, I can't believe this. No one has done this before. And to add on to the fact that Rango didn't even have any ammo in that gun, I think that's just so cool, to the point that Jake was scared of a gun that wasn't loaded.
Well, he had a bullet, right? He had one bullet in it.
No, it was already out.
Yeah, he took it out.
He took it out.
He took the singular bullet out?
That's the reason
I thought
why
he took it out afterwards.
No, that's
would've
why
had
he
to
says,
have
I
done it
tap
before.
my hat to you. Because he had the confidence to stare
you're
him
talking
in the
about
eyes.
after, yeah.
He had the confidence to stare him in the eyes. And even though there was nothing in there, it could have gone so south so fast, he stood up there with confidence and made Jake afraid. And I think that is my favorite scene in the movie.
My thought, the final scene really sets like Rango and Rattlesnake Jake apart from these other two entities, which, like, we talked about how Dirt was its own character, but there's this like looming fourth character that is progression, Las Vegas, the mayor's dream, that Rattlesnake Jake and Rango are just kind of in the middle of, and they're just set apart from it as legends.
Yeah, I definitely think that they're elevated on like a pedestal where they're going to be talked about forever. One of my favorite scenes from the movie is actually the beginning. So the beginning, the opening kind of monologue from the four owls with the gunshot making the hole in the O really sets the tone for the entire movie. And I wanted to get a little bit off topic here, but do you guys remember the Eldritch Eye that is just like randomly placed in the movie?
Yeah.
There's a certain scene where they're traveling underground and this eye just opens and it's a ginormous eye. What do you think that eye is?
I genuinely don't know. I've had like lots of thoughts because during all this, I was like kind of comparing everything to like real life stuff. So, okay, animals, they have this whole Western town. In real life, the town is moving to cities. There's more professionalism. Kind of what happens for the turtle. Like everything has a role and a place. But that just felt so off to me. And I know that's like saying a lot because like in the very intro, there's like this whole deja vu, daydream, all this other stuff. And I do want to talk more about that bit later, but I will go back to the main point of the eye. I don't have any clue. I've thought of it's the eye of the future, eye of destiny, some kind of symbolism, or even an animal, and I couldn't think of one single thing.
I think it's a bearded dragon, maybe. But it's underground, so who knows?
And it's so large because when we look at Rattlesnake Jake, right? His head, just for reference, is about Rango size, right? Can we all agree on that?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, he certainly doesn't have the size to have like a giant eye like that.
yeah. So, and bearded dragons, I wouldn't say are that much bigger than a rattlesnake. So if we were to take Rango to comparison, Rango was 1/3 of the eye. So, ooh.
I don't think it was a bearded dragon because one of the pub like saloon people was a bearded dragon. So I think it was just like purely symbolic unless there really is something behind it.
I think this is just kind of a way to like unground the movie, almost putting a completely random eldritch horror in a cave and making you look at its eye is insane to me. And not telling you what it is, no less.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I wanted to go back to something AJ said. We want to go back and check out the start of the movie. The start of the movie has a lot of really good foreshadowing, both the intro with the owls and the time that Rango spends in the enclosure. How do you think that the setup for the movie foreshadows the entire journey?
I think the setup is amazing, and I would actually argue one more point to that. The dream, like when he goes into that like little water hole and has that dream, it also gives foreshadowing to that because I feel like the foreshadowing in the dream, it kind of tells who the characters are, how the story is going to go, and how it's going to play out. And in the very beginning, I think it's just comedic genius on how everything plays out, on how he's this actor, and he's like, wait, the character needs something to push him forward, some random chaos that can cause him to change and to go on this treacherous journey and become a stronger, better person. And then there's the car crash, and that exactly happens to him, and that starts him on his own journey.
I thought the how he's like napping and hiding in the, I guess, drainage kind of pipe thing, and how he floods out of it, and then at the very end they flood out of the bank reserve tank. And I thought that was kind of like the same thing, how it's like the end of that journey.
We're talking about the dream sequence he had, right?
Yeah.
That too? Okay. It genuinely just foreshadows everything. The cacti, the walking cacti, rattlesnake Jake, because there was the snake tails coming out of the ground. What else? He started to drown like he did at the very end of the movie when they put him in the tank. Let me think. Did you guys notice anything else? Remember anything else from that dream? Or did I cover most of it?
I think you covered most of it, and what's really funny about it all happened in chronological order, because I can't remember. I think it was the rattlesnake, then it was the walking trees, then it was him drowning, which when we look at it, we meet Rattlesnake Jake, then he follows the walking cacti, or I forget their name.
The walking
trees.
cacti.
Yeah, the walking cacti. Then we go to him drowning in the very end. And I think I want to say there was one more thing right before that, but I can't remember. Unless if we want to include the goldfish where he's swimming by and compare him to the unknown cowboy or whatever his name was, where he's like, you have nothing, find yourself, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you could. Mr. Timms is the name of the fish. Mr. Timms is actually my favorite character. I go back. Mr. Timms is the GOAT. He's the one who had the whole story go into motion. If it weren't for Mr. Timms, Rango wouldn't have succeeded. So, something else I wanted to point out is that in the enclosure, he's taking on the role of a hero, much like how he does later. So it definitely foreshadows the hero's journey of the film. And definitely want to get to this question right here, is the animation. Holy cow, for 2011, like, this is some really nice animation. Very textured, lots of cool character outlines. So what do you think of the animation as a whole?
I thought it was really awesome.
I think it was definitely amazing, and I think it holds up well better than its time. I would consider that, like, my personal bias, this movie, I think it's easily like a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, even just on the animation alone compared to today's animation. It holds up so strong.
It is incredible. Does anybody know like how long it took them to produce and animate that movie?
I don't know specifically how long it took them to produce and animate the movie, but it's certainly a very polished product, if that makes sense. Like, it came out and it was received very well. I mean, obviously it won a Academy Award for Best Animated Picture over Kung Fu Panda 2, which is another great film.
I would like to point out, I just went on my phone and Google, my best friend, says it was 18 months making Rango. 18 months.
The animation? That sounds wild to me.
Or like the whole production.
The whole production. We're talking about the whole production in general,
Wow.
which I think is pretty incredible when there's movies that have taken years or whatever.
The Incredibles 2 took like 7 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact on how they take so long, but then this one was so successful in 18 months, whereas others take so much time, but then they kind of turn out like a flop.
Yeah. It's very nice. It's definitely deserved its Academy Award. I wanted to bring up some final thoughts on the movie. Just, did you like it?
I loved it.
I loved it.
I thought the movie was amazing. The humor, the themes.
I agree. I love Western movies, and it definitely hit home for me. There's a lot of cool cliches, a lot of new ideas, and just in general, it pays homage while innovating at the same time.
Yeah.
So it overall succeeds as a movie. All right, Rebels, that seems to be our time for today. So, Remember, till next time, as Rango says, stay in school, eat your veggies, and burn everything but Shakespeare, and we will see you next time on Rebel Film Friday.